And you're both raised in the church, yeah?
Born and raised. My mother was a convert, so when my dad passed away, we auditioned a few different churches just to see what was out there and see if we still believed in it.
I know that feeling. I know that feeling very well. It's so important to find your faith in a doctrine you actually believe. And that's a very, very personal struggle. That is a personal challenge that I've struggled with for a very, very long time. You know, what is the one true religion?
Hello there. Have you fallen into an open manhole recently? Do you find yourself in the company of strangers? Well, then you might very well be in the feature Underground. Contrary to popular opinion, my name is Hunter Lanier, and I am here once again with a brand spanking new review, this time of Heretic, an A24 production written and directed by Scott Beck and Bryan Woods, to be released in a theater near you on November 8th. Full disclosure, I was fed some middle-of-the-road blueberry pie at the press screening for this movie. My guess is Costco. So while I can promise you that it did not color my opinions of this movie, only the white shirt that I was wearing, I did want to bring it up. I've never been given food at a press screening before, and this is my public plea for this practice to continue. Let there be no doubt, the best thing about Heretic is Hugh Grant. To say he carries the movie is to put it lightly. And in my opinion, it's not a light load. To give a rough sketch of his character, he is essentially a villainous Richard Dawkins. And no matter what you think about the rest of the movie, that is an inspired choice for a horror movie villain. He keeps his sharp wit and opinions hidden in the scabbard of his cozy sweater and polite British charm. The entire movie, he's in this passive-aggressive frequency where, this being a horror movie, when the needle swings to aggressive, it's in the red, steam coming out, Mayday, Mayday, as opposed to the aggressive of real-life, non-horror Richard Dawkins, for whom the aggressive is probably more like a veiled insult or a sassy adjustment of his glasses. And Hugh Grant eats all of this up, savoring the slightest morsel of menace in every line of dialogue, and doing what great actors do, which is make the dialogue sound better than it actually is. And I think the writer-directors Scott Beck and Bryan Woods, to their credit, they know what they have, since so many of the scenes are tight on his face, capturing every subtle shift in expression and recasting of his eyes. The extreme close-ups, of course, also add to the general tension as well. One funny thing this performance made me think of, and I say funny, but it's actually, I think has some merit to it. It made me feel gratitude for the fact that Hugh Grant appears to have never indulged in any Hollywood mockery of the old moneymaker as he's gotten older. His face in this film, which captures your attention and holds it like no other performance I've ever seen him give. Partly because you're always on edge and worried about what his character might say or do. His face is so full of character and personality. The laugh lines, the worry lines. It's a face that carries the traces of a lifetime of expressions. And that's not something that can be acted. You either have that or you don't. Despite being a leading man for his whole career, he's almost developed a character actor face that has the depth of, say, like a Robert Forster. For this reason, I think the movie's first act is where it's strongest. This is where it's just basically a back and forth, dialogue-heavy, tense exchange between Hugh Grant's character and the two Mormon girls that knock on his door, played by Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East, who are also very good, but don't have the luxury of a meaty character role.
I think your door's a bit stuck out there.
The door won't open.
The front door?
Yeah, the front door won't open again.
It opened when we came in.
Yeah.
Maybe if you unlock it, it will open?
No, I understand what you're asking me, but the deadbolts are on a timer. I got carried away with our conversation. I didn't realize the brace had been set. I should have pulled the pin when you came in, but I forgot. So if you are now regrettably ready to leave, you'll have to exit through the back of my house.
Where?
Just through here.
Well, can you just unlock the front one, please? We would like to go that way.
Just so we don't get turned around and confused when we get outside?
Yeah. It won't open again till morning.
We first meet the two girls when they're on their uphill holy mission of converting complete strangers to an entirely new way of life. They're naive but smart, and as we see, easy pickings for bullies. So when Hugh Grant first opens the door with a humble smile, it's a stark contrast to earlier in the day, and also adds credence to why they would be so willing to just kind of walk into his home and give him every benefit of the doubt. Now, I won't get into where the movie goes from here or how exactly the plot unfolds, but I will say I don't think the movie ever follows through on the success of the first act. Part of this is that it's torn between being a philosophical horror movie and a more traditional young women in peril, bloody scream fest. I use the word torn because instead of having the best of both worlds, the movie's attention seems split between the two, and neither end up being exceptionally well done. By the time you get to the grand climax and everything is revealed, the philosophical side of things ends with a banal whimper, and you find that you were never really all that scared or excited. In fact, if we're going by the Hitchcock definition of suspense and horror, horror being a family eating dinner and then suddenly dying in an explosion, suspense being the same thing, but you show the bomb underneath the dinner table before it goes off. By that definition, I would put Heretic in the suspense thriller section of Blockbuster, as opposed to the horror section. Not that that makes the movie better or worse, but just in the spirit of classifying the movie for people who may be more or less interested depending on which genre it falls into. Of course, in this analogy, Hugh Grant is the bomb underneath the dinner table. One other negative that I wanted to bring up, and this is very rarely something that bothers me, but it actually did bother me in this case for a very particular reason. In my opinion, the lowest form, or let's say one of the lowest forms of film criticism, is the pinpointing of plot holes, which you only really see, I think, in the circle of genre film critics and fans. So-and-so would never say this, why didn't so-and-so just do that, etc., etc. To me, that line of thinking just seems like an Ouroboros of misery and ultimately just not interesting. Plus, I think it's a little bit of an escape route, an intellectual escape route, to avoid engaging with the movie as it is. But in Heretic, there are a handful of moments, some more important than others, where I found myself just not buying it and or rolling my eyes. And in some of those moments, especially toward the end of the movie, it's really pivotal that you do buy into it. A small example of this, and it's not a spoiler because it's in the trailers and it's a pivotal part of the marketing, is the blueberry pie scented candle. I do not believe that a person would mistake the smell of a blueberry pie scented candle for a freshly baked blueberry pie. Now, this wouldn't have made my eyes roll as much as they did if the directors hadn't drawn so much attention to this revelation. I have never seen a household object turned around so dramatically as in this movie. Now, if they hadn't drawn so much attention to it and one of the girls had just noticed it very casually while they were exploring the room, that wouldn't have bothered me. Of course, this isn't a big deal. The candle's not a big deal. But it is indicative of a few other moments of greater importance that happened later in the movie. As you might be able to tell by now, I wasn't as impressed with this movie as other people seem to be, at least beyond the first act and Hugh Grant's ravenously sinister and just super entertaining performance. If you end up seeing the movie, come on back here, leave your own little review in the comments. I like to engage with other people's opinions. I'm especially curious if you feel another way than I did. If you did like the movie more than me, let me know why. Maybe you can help me see it from a more flattering angle. Like the video if you enjoyed this discussion. Subscribe if you have not done so already. It is totally free to subscribe. I promise I won't spam your feed with videos. I'd say I do maybe 1, maybe 2 videos a week on average. That said, I am seeing Gladiator 2 this Thursday, and the review embargo lifts on November 11th. I believe that is Veterans Day, next Monday. Veterans Day in the States. Specifically, I think the review embargo lifts in the morning. That one should be a fun one to talk about. The first Gladiator is the first movie that I remember seeing in a movie theater. I was 6 years old. Until then, I leave you with the light in the darkness, the always illuminating truth that every day underground is a good day.
As I understand it, stop me when I go wrong, he was visited in the night by an angel called Moroni.
Moroni.
Moroni, who showed him where he could locate some golden plates near his home. His mysterious translation of those plates form the basis of this.
Wow. No, you read more than we do. No, seriously, we should be more like you, Mr. Reed. Mr. Reed.
Pie smells amazing.
And now that you've been studying the Book of Mormon, how does it make you feel?
Can you guess what kind of pie she's making?
Is it blueberry pie?
It is blueberry pie.
I knew it, my favorite.
Going back, can I ask, how did your father pass away? I'm sorry, I shouldn't.
Heretic's disease?
Blueberry disease. Okay, that's wonderful. Blueberry disease. Who wouldn't want that? Ah.
Lou Gehrig's disease. Gehrig's?
Oh, that's awful. I'm so sorry. I misheard. That is a malicious affliction. I thought you were making a joke about the pie. Sorry. Yeah. Have you seen any signs of your father since he passed? Has he tried to communicate from the other side?
No.
That's strange.